is, Mike Athelberg's not here. That's okay, we'll go on. That's the only amendment to the agenda. Yes, which I'll if you want, I'll say it. Okay. Yeah, you can just this evening.
There you go.
Richard Ackerman's taken over. Yeah.
Ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, we're about to open the meeting. May you all have a seat, please?
All right. I bet you $1 he forgets to introduce Jim.
How are you?
What do you think?
Terrific.
You missed our
Or,
yeah,
Okay.
we'll do it another. We can do another. Okay.
All right. Good afternoon. A meeting of the Board of Public Works is scheduled for this afternoon at 5:30, and we're about to open the meeting at 5:31 p.m. May we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Donchis will not be here this evening. Commissioner Ackerman,
Here.
Commissioner Pappas,
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty,
here.
Commissioner Teese.
Present.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the director just to make a reference to an amended agenda that we have in front of us for tonight.
And I'll also mention that our aldermanic liaison, Alderman Jetty, is also present for this evening. There is only one amendment to the agenda, and that is the addition of an item under Parks and Recreation, which is actually 8 little free libraries. The United Way is supposed to be here. Mike Athelberg said he was going to be here to talk about them. If he's not, we certainly can speak to that, and Superintendent Caggiano will as well. But that's the only amendment to the agenda this evening.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the amended agenda as presented.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of July 26, 2018.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have.
Yes, Alderman Jetty.
On page 17, at the bottom, it says Alderman Jetty, not to belabor this. Page 18, Alderman Jetty, do we know how much tonnage? And then in the middle, Alderman Jetty, I know you, Jeff, and Sally. There's nothing wrong with any of those statements, but I didn't make them.
By the mayor.
Someone else said that, and I don't.
Just by the mayor.
I'm not sure, we'd have to go back, yeah.
It's not
But
a
we
big-
can go back,
We'll
we can go
correct
back
it,
and look at that.
It's not a big deal.
Wh-
It's probably my fault
Do you
for
have
not
those, Diane? Which
identifying
ones? Okay.
myself.
Sometimes it's hard for the transcriptionist to distinguish between
Right.
voices, so that may be what
Yeah.
happened. So we'll go back and fix that. Are those the only comments that,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Should we proceed
We can-
forward?
If you'd like, we can hold these minutes and make the corrections and bring them back, or do you,
Okay, so I.
however you want
move-
to do it.
So I guess I'll move to hold them for correction for next month, is that?
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Okay. We're going to open this up to public comment. Is there anybody from the public here tonight wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close that. And we'll simply move over to Parks and Recreation. Do I have a motion under item A?
Oh, okay, let's see. I move, let's see. I move to approve the installation of 5 little free libraries to the United Way of Greater Nashua at the proposed locations of LaJoy Field, Roby Park, Lincoln Park, Atherton Park, and Thornton Park, in the placement of the 3 little free libraries by Girl Scout Jamie Evans Garcia at Centennial Pool, Crown Hill Pool, and Rotary Pool.
Very good.
Okay, so for full disclosure, there was some confusion, and the superintendent will speak to that further, but the 3 little libraries at the pools that were by Girl Scout Jamie Evans Garcia have already been installed. There was some confusion in terms of getting Board of Public Works approval. If the board does not approve of these locations, then they will be removed. So I just want to let you know, the others have not been installed. Okay.
Superintendent, would you like to?
and Rec Superintendent. So this is the second round of the free libraries that we've done before. We've been working, the United Way has worked with the mayor's office and the division and putting some out. At the same time, I was working with a wonderful young lady who is working on her Girl Scout Silver Award, which is equivalent to a Boy Scout Eagle project. And she came to me and proposed to put these little libraries that she constructed at the 3 city pools, which to me was a wonderful idea because as the moms and dads are waiting while the kids play, have swim lessons, or they're in the pool, they can use a book, put it back, bring a book. And my error, I should have came and talked about it earlier, but it's just an oversight on my part. But she's a great young woman, and she did a great job.
Very good. Any questions, any further discussion? Commissioner Pappas?
I certainly don't object to having any free libraries in any of the pools.
Very good. Anyone else? Commissioner?
I'm just
Oriana?
wondering, was there opposition to this, Superintendent?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah.
I hadn't received any calls. That was just brought to my attention by the director that technically I should have came to you guys first, and that's on me.
No worries. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Superintendent. Now we're going to move to solid waste.
Move to renew Sanborn Head and Associates, Inc., SHA Landfill Gas Management Suite LFGMS service for 3 years from FY19, FY21, in an amount not to exceed $12,000 per year, pending finance approval. Funding for this service is through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Solid Waste, Account Classification 53, Professional and Technical Services.
Very good. Any discussion? And we do have the Superintendent of Solid Waste here. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item C.
I move to approve a contract with Clear Span Fabric Structures International in the amount of $54,521.85 to construct a structure to cover the recycling area in the landfill where recyclable material is stored. Funding for this motion is set forth in the agenda.
Very good. Any discussion? Commissioner Pappas.
That looks like less than we had set aside, is that correct?
I think
for the-
200,000 was the number we took.
Yes, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. I actually put aside $220,000 for recycling, I want to say recycling area restoration. So there's multiple projects that'll be drawn off that, but this will be one of the bigger of those projects.
Okay. If I can, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So what are we going to do with the remainder of the 250 or 1,000?
I have some ideas that I haven't discussed with the director yet, but we have some areas that just need some dire repairs.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, if we,
I think the buildings are in really rough shape, that we're storing electronics, and so we'll probably look at trying to do something with that.
okay,
Very good.
thank you.
One of the questions I had for the superintendent prior to our meeting was a little bit of background in this, and, you know, I was concerned because of the winter weather. Would it be solid enough to withstand the snow? And Superintendent, you had some enlightening things to share.
Yep, this is engineered through ClearSpan, so they have an engineered stamp for it, so it's made for the heavy snow area. And also, Manchester actually just installed the same exact model that we have for their salt barn.
Excellent. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Moving over to the street department, item A.
I'll move to approve the purchase of one Johnson vacuum air sweeper from Sanitary Equipment Company, Inc. of Stoughton, Mass. For the price of $274,100 pursuant to HGAC contract number SW04-18. Funding is the Department 161 Street Fund Activity, sir.
Very good. Superintendent Ibarra is here as well. Any discussion relative to this topic? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
I move to award the contract for the design build of the fuel island located at the street department facility to EnviroTrack Environmental Services Limited of North Andover, Massachusetts. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund, General and Escrow Activity, Fuel Depot Rehabilitation.
Any discussion? Commissioner Tease.
Just noting that this does not reference a dollar amount for that contract.
On the motion, it is, on the front page.
On the supporting docs, okay.
Bid comparisons.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an oversight, you're
Yep.
right, that should have
Okay.
been in there, sorry about that.
No, I didn't go back and double check. Thank
Do
you.
you have the number?
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's interesting, it's not on the agenda, but it's on the,
It's
it's
in
on the motion,
packet,
on the
but not in
actual,
agenda,
yeah. So it's 200 and, oh, no, it's not. It isn't, it's
It's in our,
$259,488.
still on the sweeper.
Commissioner Moriarty, did you have a question?
Well,
sir?
I guess we should amend that motion to include
Include
the
the amount, correct.
amount. So
Very good.
make that amended motion to include the amount of $259,488.
Sure. We'll do that. Superintendent, this is Commissioner Ackerman. Just a quick question.
it's 200%.
What's the background? Why is this required for the city? Safety reasons or?
Yeah, it's failing infrastructure. That island is deteriorated. The undergrade or below grade piping needs to be replaced. It's all dry rotted and cracking. It's a safety issue, and it's a main hub for PD fire. The whole division fuels up there.
And the fuel pumps are also failing.
Yep.
We had significant problems with the fuel pumps last year. We were hoping to get this done this fall, but it looks now like it might be spring because of approvals from DES. We're gonna try to push that along, but I guess it takes about 90 days just to get approval. So
We're gonna move fast.
we're gonna try to move as fast as we can.
Very good. All those in favor of approving, Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, just a question on the funding, because is the funding coming through our department solely?
Capital improvements, that money was escrowed to put towards this project.
Thank you.
Right, so it's not coming out of our budget.
Right.
Good question.
Because obviously other departments will be using that island.
Correct.
Right. Good question.
All right. We have a motion. The motion has been amended to include the dollar amount, which is, and I'm trying to find it on this particular page.
259,488.
259,480,
88.
88.
88. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Superintendent. Quickly moving over to wastewater.
I'll move to approve user warrants as presented.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Item B.
I'll move to approve the purchase of one 2019 HV 507 SFA 4x2 cab and chassis truck from Liberty International of Manchester, New Hampshire for the price of $85,950. The purchase, the pricing for this purchase will be through New Hampshire contract funding through Department 169 wastewater fund, WRF, account classification 81 capital.
Very good.
Sir, that's it.
We have a stand-in for the waste. Go
This
ahead.
is Scott Law. He is one of our wastewater foremen.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, Scott. Welcome. Any discussion on this motion?
Let's ask him lots of questions.
I think he can handle it,
All
actually.
right.
Okay. I do have just a simple question. More times than not, when we're replacing or buying new vehicles for the different departments, it typically comes from a fund called SURF. This particular one looks like it's coming from WRF.
That's correct.
Is that one and the same or slightly
It-
different?
No, so SURF is for all of our departments except wastewater. Wastewater has their own, it's a wastewater equipment reserve fund. So they have their own equipment reserve fund, separate from SURF, because they're an enterprise fund. So that's why.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Mr.
And
Law,
this
do
is a,
you really
this
want
is
to?
a, this is actually their clamshell truck. It's a pretty cool piece of equipment, something that is very badly needed. Scott, maybe you can just explain what you use it for.
With the paving project going on, we have a lot of catch basin cleaning to do. Right now, we're using our Vectors for that, which wears all the material in the Vector out. The elbow on the Vector, the rubber hose on the Vector. This actually has a crane with a grapple, so when we get to catch basins that has 3 or 4 feet of debris, you can lower that in, put it in the back of the truck, bring it to the landfill and dump it, versus filling up with a Vector in 2 catch basins and having to go. We can do a whole street or a couple streets at a time.
Very good. Sounds like it's very important to the paving project.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, is it?
C?
See,
C.
Move to approve the purchase of a Stetco 950T13 catch basin cleaner from Howard P. Fairfield in Pembroke, New Hampshire for $126,923 pursuant to the GBPC, Greater Boston Police Council Contract 2018 pricing. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund WRF, account classification 81 Capital.
Any discussion on this item? Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, so Scott, if I read this correctly, it's an attachment to the truck that we just approved.
Yes,
And then this is used through spring, summer, fall, and then the attachment gets taken off?
though it can be used year-round.
Okay. So what happens when we use this truck to plow?
The boom on the back stays in the center of the truck, and then the plow can be mounted in the fall, just like the rest. It's the same plow that will be on it as the rest of the DPW trucks.
So is that typical of equipment use like this? Because I would think that would add to the wear and tear of this highly expensive cleaner.
Yes, it was, the past cleaner that we had also had a plow on it. And it's not gonna be used throughout the city. It's gonna be used mainly in the plant,
yeah.
and then maybe the neighborhood right outside the
Just
plant.
if,
That's it.
yeah, it's, that's right. It'll just be used in the plant. It's not gonna it's not gonna do a lot of plowing. And if we ever need help to open up the neighborhoods near there, it might be used for that, but minimal plowing. It, you know, it won't be used heavily for plowing.
Any other questions, discussion? Yes, Commissioner.
And do we have storage available for this truck, or is it parked in the elements all year long?
It will be in the elements with the rest of the trucks for now. It's something we're trying to work on.
Thank you.
Very good. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of motion C, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
I'll move to approve the purchase of an American 4511 PISA snow and controls from Howard P. Fairfield in Pembroke, New Hampshire for $20,355 pursuant to the attached quote and sole source letter. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, WRF, account classification 81 Capital.
Any discussion on this item? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Very good.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance this evening. I just want to make note that the local Nashua, Greater Nashua United Way President, Michael Appleberg, has joined us this evening, and I'm just going to digress here from the agenda and let Mr. Appleberg address the audience. welcome.
Hello there. I understand you already voted on what we were going to be doing, so that's great. Thank you for that. I just wanted to see if there were any questions. You know, this is the second year of us doing the Little Free Libraries in the community. Last year's project was just really, really well received. We installed. You never know what's going to happen. So we had one library that actually got destroyed somewhere along the way, and so we started with 8. We ended up with 7, and that's kind of life. But other than that, it's been really well received. The public library has been just a fantastic supporter of the program. BAE has been a really great partner, P&L Landscaping. So we're pretty excited about this year's batch of libraries coming into the community, and wanted to see if anybody had any questions about that, what we're doing, and why we think it's a great project.
Absolutely.
I think we were very, sorry.
Commissioner
We're
Pappas.
very excited about them. I think having the pools is a terrific idea. Thank you so much for stepping up.
Well, thank you for supporting it. We appreciate that. And the new locations that we have, we think are going to be really, really good for the community too. So that's it.
Very good.
All
Thank you,
right.
Mr. Appleberg.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, reverting back to the agenda, under engineering, and our city engineer has joined us.
I'll move
Motion, item 8.
I'll move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permit and fees as submitted.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
Move to approve drain layers license for S&R Corporation, 706 Broadway Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, 01854, in accordance with the National City Code 255-19, issuance of drain layers license.
Any discussion?
I have a question after the vote.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Commissioner Tease.
Mr. Dukran, I'm just curious, I happen to know the Plouffe, I'm wondering where they're doing their work in the city?
This point in time, they haven't applied for any permit to do any work.
Okay, so it's just generally applying, okay.
That's
Thank you.
correct. Mhm.
Very good.
Good people.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Jettie.
So at the last meeting, I think it was Commissioner Tease expressed, asked the question, why is the board dealing with drain layers licenses? And it was pointed out that it's part of the city code, which could be changed by the Board of Aldermen. So if, if the Board of Public Works wanted to suggest a change to the ordinance, to change the issuance of the licenses by the Board of Public Works to the city engineer, or whatever else they might think would be appropriate, I'd be happy to sponsor that. But I think it should come from you people first, if that's what you think should be done.
Certainly. Any commissioners'
How does the
comments?
board feel?
Yes, how does?
Well, I was gonna ask how the director felt.
Um,
Is it more traditional? Just, it started that way and it's just tradition, we've done it that way, and does it impact business? You know, somebody has to wait a month to get approval.
That's a good question. I don't know that it's really I haven't had any complaints about, usually what happens is when the board approves it, then I get a certificate and I sign the certificate.
And have we ever
usually
declined
what
anybody?
happens.
Or
No.
why would we decline anybody?
No.
Well, I can answer that. We have, not the board has
Board,
declined,
the
but we
board
have
that we
declined to bring people to the board because of issues.
But the board hasn't ever declined.
No. And you asked
Maybe the
about,
problem.
on occasion, there may be a company waiting, they want to get the work done, somebody's hiring them, and they have to wait till they get a license. But there's also the option of them, the company working on a licensee. So the licensee doesn't really have to perform the work, but they can be a subcontractor to the licensee. That option is available as well, so.
It is probably one of those formalities that doesn't have a lot of use, honestly.
Commissioner Tease.
Yeah, my position would be, I think, decisioning this type of, making this type of decision should be held within the department. And I wouldn't see really, we are adding much value because we're just generally approving them anyway. And I would believe the director and superintendent would have the best knowledge of that.
Very good.
Do you think?
Commissioner Moriarty? Sorry.
I would suggest, one, that the board gets a copy of the city ordinance code so we can review it.
Sure.
And so we have the information, and then put it on the agenda for next meeting so we can discuss it and make a decision.
Fair enough.
Commissioner Pappas?
And so I guess probably my question would be to the city engineer and the director is, what kind of, do you look up somewhere if they've done business somewhere, or if they're on some list by the Better Business Bureau, or?
Typically, we just call references, and we like to rely on, like a city or town reference as opposed to private work. So we call the people there, and are they satisfied with the work? And typically, we get good references. So we depend on that information.
You're doing more reference work than we are, probably.
Very good. So I would concur with Commissioner Moriarty's suggestion that the director and the team
Sure.
provide the resolution, and we put it on the agenda for September. All right. Thank you. And so, moving forward, all those in favor of the current motion to, motion B, say aye.
Aye.
Didn't we do that already?
Hi.
Oh, if I missed it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. All opposed? Motion B passes. Okay, item C.
I'll move to approve change order number 2 to the paving contract for the FY18 paving program with Newport Construction of Nashua, New Hampshire, in the amount of $359,738. Funding is through Department 161 Admin Engineering Fund Bond Activity Paving.
Any discussion?
I have a
Alderman Jettie.
So there've been a lot of complaints I mean, I understand it's a huge project, it's taking a lot of time, but there've been a lot of complaints about the process. I don't know if these complaints are legitimate or not, but are you happy with this, with Newport? Are they meeting your standards? And
I would say yes for the most part. I think I told the director, in fact, earlier this week, that we're quite surprised that they have made so much progress, given the extended work, given the conditions, and this certainly being our largest program ever. Every project like this would come with inconvenience, and being a resident myself, you don't have the patience. But what Newport, in order for Newport to make the progress and still be able to make, say, a profit, they had to open a lot of streets at the same time. I mean, because if they have to pick up their equipment, it costs a lot to pick up this big set of big equipment from one community to the other. So you have to have a lot of work ready for them to come in, and that's why they open up all these streets. And people are wondering, why aren't they coming back to finish? Well, that is because they don't have enough work to warrant coming back, until that work is ready. So that is what's probably driving some people a little bit, making them a little bit upset. But we are preparing the streets, and we're getting to them one by one, and they're ready to do another batch of streets, so we're opening up another set of streets. And progress has been good, as I said. When they close up the streets that have opened up within a few weeks, they will probably be about 65-70% complete. I didn't expect them to make that kind of progress.
Very good. Commissioner Pappas?
These questions or comments are more just directly towards paving. Would it be better if I wait till the end of engineering, or?
I think it's okay.
Okay. So, the first question would be, is a lot of the holdup because of the coordination with utilities?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I can
Well-
go a little further. The utilities again, it's first time they've seen this amount of work, and they are not geared up to complete the work ahead of us. Even though they knew it was coming, they have a budget like we do, and they can only accomplish so much. They had a program that's also not in line with a paving program because they have all infrastructure and streets that are not ready to be paved, but they still have to attend to those leaks and so on. So they're trying to work within their budget, work within their staff, limitations and so on. So there's quite a bit of holdup because of utilities.
I think, too, a lot of residents aren't understanding the magnitude of work that we're doing and that it's being done in phases. And so we're doing a lot of milling, for instance, and then we might raise structures, and then there may be some base paving, and then we may not go back to final pave for a while because they're doing it in different phases and there are different crews. Driveways might not be tied in for a while. So there's that. I think there's some frustration there. People, when we're only doing 2 miles or so of paving, it's easy to just kind of get it all done at one time. But now the magnitude of the program is so large that people are. It seems to be going more slowly, but it really isn't. It's just because it's being done in phases, and we're trying to explain that to people, and I think people are starting to understand. But that's, I think, the source of what I'm hearing. I've heard a lot of people have been frustrated about.
Okay, because I do think that people sometimes do get confused with all the utility work, and they think it's the paving, but it's really not the paving, it is the precursor. My second thought was, it's been very difficult for us to keep up with an accurate schedule, just because that's kind of the way of things. We have a call system through Nashua. They do a great job if they know, for example, Main Street's going to be closed. I don't know how specific it can get if we can make calls to say put out a call to every person on Manchester Street. I know Manchester was done last year. Let's say that everyone who within a certain period, a certain addresses would get the call to expect delay. I don't know if we have that ability or if it's feasible.
Boy,
It's
I'll
just,
tell you,
it's just a thought.
And Lauren Byers and I have talked a lot about this. The problem is the magnitude of the program. It's a moving target all the time, and we're struggling just to try to get streets out on a weekly basis that will be paved. We're trying. I mean, we're trying to get as much as we can, but things change on a daily basis. And I know Mandeep Gill, who's managing the paving program for engineering for the most part, is it's very difficult to pinpoint when things are. And we have been asked that. Can you give us more details of what's going to happen on each street? And we just can't because we don't have that information, unfortunately.
Okay.
So we're doing the best we can to get as much information as we can out there. I think Lauren's doing a pretty good job, but there is a limit to what we have for information. Correct,
So-
Steve?
That's correct, and I think, Commissioner Pappas, you're asking about a call system. I don't think it's tailored such that it will target a specific area, because if I ever get a call for something, it may be, in fact, if you remember, some calls that have gone out in the past annoyed people because it doesn't concern me.
Okay.
So I don't know if the system is designed we can find that out.
It can, but that would be a lot of work to try to do. And I would be concerned that we wouldn't be given accurate information.
Okay.
One of the nice.
People just need to be patient, and we get a lot of why isn't my street being paved instead of this street?
Right.
We've tried to save. Full depth reclamation obviously is the most expensive, so we try to save streets from getting to that point. So we might be paving streets that are maybe a little bit better than others for that reason,
Right.
because we want to save them from getting to that point. So So that's, that's one of the things that we're doing. And then the other thing is, the condition of our streets are just not very good. And not everybody can go first, unfortunately. There's a lot of streets that are in rough shape. And Stan Tech is determining, which streets go first. But we have utility work, as you mentioned, Commissioner Pappas, that plays into that. If, we may not be able to do a street because there's utility work that needs to be done and the utilities can't keep up. So, it's really kind of a balancing act. And, in addition to our sewer work, if there's a sewer that needs to be replaced, we're certainly not going to pave and then dig it up. So there's so many things that factor into why we choose streets. But.
Commissioner Tease?
I'm wondering if, not tonight, not tomorrow, but if it might be beneficial for us as a group to maybe learn a little bit more about and be better educated about the program and the significance of it, both from paving, utilities and so forth. So when we are approached by folks, that we can say to them with a high degree of confidence, understand your plight, your segment of road or your road's less than 1% of the total project. You have to understand the magnitude of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have, empathy with these folks and also educate them a little bit. I was fortunate. I was approached last Friday and happened to be in my car when this young lady called, and I said, well, let me check the paving schedule. And I was able, I don't know if a road got paved this week, Pell, I think it was. And I said, you're on the list this week. Great, that's all I needed to hear. So I was lucky. I got off.
Encourage people to go on Facebook, because we do post that on Facebook, and it is on the city's website as well, the front page of the city's website under road construction.
Okay.
But we also, if people like our page, Nashua Public Works, we post a lot of information. Road closures and paving schedules and all, as much information as we have, we post on Facebook. So that's a good resource too, for people to look at.
Very good. Commissioner Pappas?
So my two other questions have to do with utility. I might send some emails. I have noticed on some of the side streets, when they have cut into the side streets for some major paving, I hope that some of the patchwork is not permanent patchwork, because they had really some lousy jobs being done there on the side streets that aren't going to be paved. I know eventually that we do catch up with things, but I know that we have street inspectors that will eventually catch up, but some of these patches, you don't want people to have to live with this through a winter. The one question and then a comment, again, and this has to do with crews who are working for utilities, that I'm finding, I understand that they have to leave their construction equipment in the neighborhood, but I'm finding that they're parking too close to stop signs, which can be kind of difficult. I mean, number one, a site issue, but number two, it can, because that equipment's so large, and then someone wants to pull up to a stop sign and it's a two-way street, it can make for stuff that's a little hairy.
Okay.
And then my third question, I know that some of our major streets that were set to be paved aren't, they're still working on, we're still got the utilities working there. Are we going to be able to get all our crosswalks done, number one, and number two, just out of curiosity? When we have to redo our crosswalks on the major roads that are like kind of expensive crosswalks, does that come from the paving bond?
Yes.
Um, So I think your question about
I think that the paving
The
bond.
restriping is through the paving
yes,
program, yes.
But,
All of the striping.
so when we have the brick, I don't know if it's real brick, but it feels like brickwork on a crosswalk,
The
That's
XD
gonna
pattern
have
like
to
we
be
have on
redone.
Concord Street, yes.
that'll have to be redone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
And that comes from the paving bond.
yes.
le-
Or the contractor.
let me
because-
elaborate on that.
Yeah.
So, few of those expensive crosswalks on Concord Street
Very expensive.
were impacted by the gas company, and they're responsible for restoring them. And those that will not touch, we want to preserve them because of the cost. So what we'll do, we will pave up to them. Because if you remember, in installing those crosswalks, we did mill the street and repave just that section. So if they're in good shape, we will just come and, butt up to them.
Okay,
Right.
Very good.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes. Mr. Duran, I noticed in this motion, there's a funding request to address Sharon Avenue. And it's not a street that I typically drive often on. Could you address that, please, why we're doing this?
Okay. So Sharon Avenue itself is on the paving program to restore. So that was on the list. And the change order here is we want to widen Sharon Avenue to make a separate right turn lane from Sharon onto Pine Hill Road. So it needs some widening. And the additional cost of $24,000 is what the contractor will take to do that widening.
Okay.
Thank you. I was curious as to which end of Sharon, because
I-
it didn't list it, so thank you.
I
Cleared
see.
it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fantastic. I had a resident ask me about that the other day, and I said I'd bring it before the commission, so, great, thank you.
Yeah, people in that neighborhood are very excited
Yeah,
about that.
that's great.
Okay, if no further discussion on item C, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Just a quick question for Mr. Ducrain, based upon the prior discussion, before we move over to item D. Is there anything that we can do, since the paving program is a 7-year aggressive paving program for the city of Nashua, and obviously there's a lot of coordination that's going on, is there anything that we can do now, between now and the end of the calendar year, to work with the utilities to beef up what they need to do year 2, 3, 4, and forward?
We are in constant communication with the utility companies. We have bi-weekly meetings with Liberty. It's more of coordinating with the work, but they've already sent us their program, upcoming program, and so we're going to meet and examine, cross-check what they're doing and with what we're doing. We do the same with Pennachuck. They very well know that they themselves have to put more resources because we are not going to wait on them. We do our very best, but they understand our program. And it's 5 years, we're hoping, not 7,
Okay,
with an additional 5 later on.
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much. Item D.
I move to approve change order number 2 to the contract with Leighton A. White of Milford, New Hampshire for the FY18 sidewalk program in the amount of $40,000. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering Fund Bond Activity Paving.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E.
I'll move to approve the contract with Hayner Swanson, Inc. Of Nashua in the amount of $391,925 for professional services in FY 2019 sewer rehab program. Funding through Department 169 wastewater fund bond activity, sewer infrastructure improvements pending bond approval.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we'll move over to administration. Director Fultz.
Now Diane's here, so hopefully this will work tonight. Okay. So first, in our 2018 sidewalk project, we have new ADA ramps are installed on Tangway Way and Henry Burke by Leighton White. This is in anticipation of the paving that we're going to be doing. We did some cured-in-place pipelining. This is a trenchless rehabilitation method. We're trying to do this as much as we can. Works very well. This is pipelining on Lake near Lund Street. The contractor that did this was Lane Inliner of Fairfield, Maine. We have sewer replacement project. Newport Construction is working on many catch basins on Kinsley and some side streets for our sewer replacement project. Newport's doing an awful lot of work for the city. Just wanted to give you sort of a paving update. So we've done, so far, 71 streets, 12.59 miles. Paving in progress, there are 27 streets, 6.39 miles, and the paving not started, we have 30 streets and 7 miles. So you can see Newport has made a lot of progress, so we're doing,
Would you be able to kindly share that slide with us as a group? Because I think
absolutely.
that contains some real valuable information, so when we're asked, we can kind of point out, hey, these are how many miles or how many streets we're working on. I think it'd be real valuable to have that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll also post this on Facebook, so people can see it. These plantings were installed at Abbott Square by the Church of the Nazarene, Parker Garden Design, and Park and Rec employees. If you haven't seen it, it looks really nice. We have had, with all of the wet weather, we've had tremendous grass growth, as you can imagine. Our large mowers are both out every day, and we've been applying weed control to try to control the weeds, but all the wet weather has definitely created some challenges. We have 250 acres of weekly mowing, so it's fairly significant. Pickleball continues to grow. If you haven't seen folks play and haven't played, it looks like a lot of fun. And they're now playing at Greeley Park as well as Fields Grove. This is a picture of a tree that was removed by our Park and Rec crews on Layton Street. It's a very large tree. And the Brew Fest went extremely well. We had about 2,400 people attend this past Saturday. And you can see the picture of the Clydesdales, and there were 3 bands, including the Forever Young Band, which is pictured. And it rained. It was not a great day, but it didn't seem to deter many folks, so that was great. We've been very busy with emergency sewer repairs. These are sewer repairs on 74 Cambridge Street. In the center is 9 Charles, and a repair on Stark Street. We've also been busy with manhole repairs. This is 130 Northeastern Boulevard, and to the right is Will Street. And we're getting in preparation for trying to pave the remainder of Will Street. We had to fix those structures. Also, catch basin repairs. We've got a lot of catch basins that need attention. On the left is an installation on Aberdeen Lane at Searles Road, and on the right is an installation at 28 Thornton Road. And sinkholes are sort of the topic of the hour. We've really been derailed on a lot of our work. We've just had a tremendous amount of sinkholes, partially caused by all of the rain that we've been having, but also we do have some sewers that are causing some problems. We have on the next page really lists all of the sinkholes we've had this year, and probably Gills, Elm, Ash, West Hollis, Holman Stadium parking lot, Whitney, Cherrywood, Northeastern, and probably the most famous on Main Street. I'm sure you all saw that in the news. It wasn't quite as bad as everything was made out to be, but a van, its tire did go into the hole. Nobody was injured. It was about 5 by 5 feet wide. Essentially, a pipe was leaking, and over time, it just undermined the soil. So we fixed the pipe, and I believe that was supposed to be base paved today, and then we're gonna let it sit and settle for a little bit before we final pave. So. And sidewalks, we're working on sidewalks diligently. This is the sidewalk in front of the Mary Sweeney home on East Pearl Street. Commissioner Pabst, I think you had asked about this. There's a tripping hazard there, so that's been fixed. It also came to our attention that there was a parking spot right in front of their door. So when they needed to bring people in and out in an emergency, they couldn't do so. So we asked Alderman Lopez to sponsor legislation, which he has, to eliminate a parking space there so that they can. I'm not sure how that was quite an oversight, but we're working on fixing that as well. This is our new portable pump. We did not have a reliable bypass pump when we have emergency sewer digs. We now do at wastewater. And it's used for different things, not only for bypass pumping, but also for our collection system and emptying tanks and that sort of thing. And this is just a beautiful picture of a rainbow over wastewater, which is pretty cool. And the superintendent is doing a fabulous job. If you haven't been to wastewater lately, you should, both inside and out. It's just really immaculate. He's really doing a great job, and the process is running really well, and the foremen are doing a great job. Unfortunately, Scott's gone, but things are really great. I know Alderman Jettie had mentioned that he'd like to see the plan at some point.
Yes, and I was supposed to bring that up, wasn't I? So could I bring that up now?
You can bring it up, sure.
Yeah, I would, I don't know if the other commissioners, but I would like to have the opportunity to tour the wastewater treatment plant. So I don't know when that could be scheduled, but
Are any of the other commissioners interested
Yeah, I
in
think
touring the plant, or?
it would make sense to do it on the day of a meeting and just have, or a meeting there if that's okay with the board members.
Great idea.
Would you like to schedule a meeting there? I mean, it's amazingly clean. I mean, even the odors inside the building, it's incredible what he's accomplished. So if we could have maybe one of our upcoming meetings, is that okay with
Absolutely. Sounds great.
That's probably the only facility that we could host a meeting. But they have a nice conference room. Okay, so I'll work on that.
Very good.
could I ask that it not be the September meeting?
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be here for the September
Okay.
meeting, that's why I say that.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, are we done with administration?
I just have one more,
Comment? That's fine.
sorry, I just want to.
You take your time.
Okay. Okay, so we are trying to educate residents about keeping all types of batteries out of curbside recycling. They're not allowed in the shipments to the recycling facility, and they can cause fires, so please don't put batteries. If you have any questions, there are a number of different batteries that can be recycled, though, and we will take them, but just please bring them to the solid waste department separately. The gas expansion is completed. We have 4 vertical and 8 horizontal wells and 700 feet of drain tube mat that was installed along the wall for gas collection. And you probably heard about the AED that was donated by AMR earlier this year. We had a training today, actually, about for all the staff on how to use it. So hopefully we never have to use it, but at least they're all trained now. And the last slide I have is that the Four Hills landfill, of course, will be closed Monday, September 3rd in observance of Labor Day. So trash recycling and soft yard waste will be delayed by 1 day that week. Any questions?
Commissioner Moriarty?
Director, just on that AED, one thing that happens in past history is that the batteries are dead when they go to use it, so somebody has to be in charge of checking that every year, the battery, so it's,
Yes.
I don't know who, but somebody at solid waste, is that where it?
Yes.
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 And don't throw the
Yep,
battery
that's a
away.
good point. And that was brought up to us.
Oh, was, okay.
They do have a procedure in place.
Very good. Commissioner Tease?
I'll share with Alderman Jettie my limited knowledge of wastewater as I ask a question to the director. I believe on a daily basis, the wastewater facility receives 11 million gallons of water. Is that right?
That's true.
And when it rains, it's 17 million. It's treated. My question is,
A lot more than that.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah.
My question was, with the significant rainfall we've experienced over the last 90 days, what type of an impact does that have in terms of additional chemicals or anything being purchased, or does it have a real strain on the department?
Well, what happens is it activates wet weather. You'll also see that we had several CSO activations due to all the wet weather. So, so does it put a strain on the facility? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because with wet weather, you know, we could have close to, if everything's running through the plant and wet weather's running at full capacity, we could have close to 100 million gallons going through the plant.
Wow.
And that gets a little exciting when I mean, that's probably not realistic. We probably have 70 or 80, but there's a lot of flow that goes through that plant when wet weather's activated, so. And we have been activating our wet weather facility a fair amount lately, so.
Does it result in increased employee hours or anything like that, or is it kind of run?
It does. When we activate wet weather, we always have a form in there, and we try to bring in additional staff. The plant is staffed 24/7, so we do always have staff there, but less people on second and third shifts, so, and that's always when wet weather activates, not when we have a full
Right.
complement of people. So we do try to bring additional people in. We're not always successful in getting other, it's not something that we can just call out to another department. It has to be,
Right.
qualified operators that run that, but.
Interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, any commissioners' comments in addition to what we have so far? Commissioner Pappas.
I wanted to address just that we are going to be doing some tours of our facilities in September.
Yes.
And I think that that's a good thing. One of the things I think sometimes municipalities can do is that we might get a figure on something, and then it's not really in comparison to anything else. Last year, we got a figure of, I think, $52 million for Burke Street. And this board unanimously voted no. I don't think it's because they didn't, I think there's a tremendous amount of respect that we have for administration and, certainly understand why it would be helpful to have everyone at one facility. But the upside is we have a figure. Now we have an opportunity to take a long-term view and get a second figure as to what it will cost to fix all our other facilities and to be able to prioritize those. Now, I think in order to do that correctly, we need to set a decent amount of money aside in next year's budget. Because what I'd hate for us to do is to say, all right, let's just try to get a figure, just a guesstimate as to what it's gonna cost to upgrade our facilities. I think that we should go through the same processes that we did to try to get a figure on Burke Street. And I do think that we need to set priorities as to which facilities need the most work in the most hurry. Off the top of my head, I think that Parks and Rec is in deplorable condition, and it's no fault of the city or the director or the superintendent. It's just, unfortunately, as a city, I think that we've not addressed certain issues. One of the things that we did do over at Park and Rec that I think helped matter short term, that I think can help our employees, muddle through and go to work every day, is that the break room in the Park and Rec department was in really bad shape. I'm sure it's not the Ritz now either. But one of the things that was done was that the city purchased materials to fix that place up. And we have incredibly, the labor we have is fabulous, and we have people with a lot of different talents. And I'm wondering if it might make sense. I mean, clearly, whatever we're gonna do has to be long-term, and but there are certain short-term things that really need to be done. And I'm wondering if we can think of some short-term fixes to make things more palatable and to make it easier for people to go to work every day. And so those are my thoughts, that I'm glad that we have one true figure. And I would like us to get another figure, and then because I think one of the good things is to be comparing apples to apples. And also, again, more long-term to see what it is that we need in our facilities, and I don't know, the director, I know, I think it was Commissioner Bergeron and the director were the ones that were on the Burke Street Committee, but I think that if when we start budgeting for next year, if you were pleased with the engineering firm that we hired, that might be someone who might be a good resource, since they've been on the other end, if you were happy with their services.
So Commissioner Moriarty can't make the meeting, or Alderman Jettie didn't get the email. So they both came and looked at all the facilities, and I think they would tell you that our staff is working in pretty deplorable conditions. So, that was the purpose of this meeting, is really to show you the kind of conditions that we're asking our people to work in, and I don't think it's fair to them. And I think, aside from what the next steps are, I just think that it's important for you all to see that. I think it was, I don't know if you want to comment at all, Commissioner Moriarty, but I think that you'll all agree that something needs to be done. So, and that's why I wanted to show it to all of you, so that we can determine what those next steps are.
Were people fairly pleased with, I mean, obviously, as I said, I'm sure it's not the Ritz over at the Parks and Rec Department. But I would imagine like a good cosmetic go-around is not a bad thing, and I think that we can get building materials for not a whole lot of money. And I do think that going into the winter is a good time, because we do have a little bit more downtime.
But, yeah, when we can, again, once you see the facilities, we can talk more about it, but there's not room for our staff. There's not room to build appropriate the Park and Rec has one men's bathroom, for instance, one. I mean, that's insanity when you think about all the people with the summer help that are there in the summertime. It's just not, there's no locker room. The break room's not sufficient to hold, so there's a lot of things like that. But we can talk about that further once I thought it was important that you actually, I do have a presentation for you, and then I think it's important that you actually see. I don't know, Alderman Jettie, if you have any comments either, but I think it gives you a good perspective of what we're dealing with. And then we can have a discussion on what you all think we should do to moving forward.
Very good. Fair enough. Any other comments from any other commissioners? I'll just make one. Kudos to the entire department. Kudos to the superintendents for doing a remarkable job in a tough summer weather-wise. And thanks for their continued efforts. Let us now move over to personnel. Item A.
Chairman, before
Yes, Alderman Jettie.
So Director, when you were talking about CSO, combined sewer overflow, so do I understand that when we have the big rainstorms like we've been having, that the sewer water gets combined with the storm water and ends up in the river untreated?
Well, so you want to come up and speak to that a little bit, Steve? So many years ago, it was decided that we were going to, instead of Manchester has separated the city, they chose to separate. We decided instead to build CSOs, which are essentially holding tanks, and the theory is it would slow down the flow to the plant. But sometimes when we have really large discharges, when we have heavy rains, they do overflow, and really they're designed to overflow. This is probably a meeting that we have to have at some point to talk about, because the EPA has not been happy with the fact that they're discharging at all. The EPA believes that they shouldn't discharge at all. And there's sort of been a push to separate, and I could talk for a long time, so I won't, but I think we're going to have to move to separate in some areas where we're still having discharges, although I think it's unrealistic for anybody to think that we're never going to have discharges, depending on if we have very large rain events. So we do have our screening and disinfection facility treats the water before it goes, but not all of the CSOs, excuse me, treat the material before it goes out to the river.
Okay, so that was my question. So when you're talking about discharges, so that means that untreated water is, we're putting untreated water, some untreated water into the river in those storm events. Is that?
Yeah, from time to time, yes.
You want me to elaborate?
You can elaborate, sure.
Okay, so, like many communities, the old industrial communities that are on rivers, Nashua was given a mandate by the EPA in the 90s to separate, and the city chose to do so. And then it turned out that we were spending a lot more than we had planned. Our program was to spend $1 million a mile for 110 miles over a 20-year period. A couple of projects into it, we were spending $2.5 million, and suddenly where can we find the rest of the money? And the city chose, actually we did a study that said we can achieve the same results because total separation will never get you zero discharges. It's well known to the industry that that's the case. Manchester might be going that direction, but they're not going to guarantee you zero discharges. Maybe a smaller community would, but not a community our size. Anyway, so the study came back and said we can get similar results spending the same amount of money, 100 million or so dollars, by doing the hold and treat. And that's how we ended up with the wet weather facility, the disinfection unit, the storage tank at the at CSO4, and which we have all completed. Now, in designing that program, and this was around 2003, 2005, we knew that we will be capturing and treating storms up to a 2-year storm. You know, because you rank storms by the date. You could have a 1-month storm, a 6-month storm, and so on, up to a 100-year storm. So the 2-year storm, and that's where you capture the majority of the contaminants, because the contaminants are, in the street. So you capture the contaminants and they go into the system and they get treated. Beyond that, we expect overflows will be rare. Now, there could be arguments that, well, our storms have been changing. What used to be a 10-year storm in the past is no longer that. It's a 10-year storm today. We're probably seeing a 10-year storm every couple of years, or a couple of them during the same year. So there needs to be, the storm level needs to be revisited, and UNH has a research center that's been pushing that in the state of New Hampshire, and so there needs to be some rework at that. So yes, as the director is explaining, we do have those discharges, but they are not discharging a lot of contaminants in the rivers, because it's very diluted. You look at the storms we've been having, it's a lot of water. The sewage is the same amount in the water, but now it's in a very large volume, so it's very diluted. So the pollution isn't to that great extent. And that's how, in the early 2000s, we were able to demonstrate to the EPA that we are still achieving a very good level of treatment. But some way or the other, the EPA has it that they want to minimize discharges. They don't go by the level of contamination, they go by the volume of contamination, regardless of how polluted or how concentrated that volume is. And but if we have to go back to, remember back in the early 2000s, we were looking at $2.5 million a mile. Well, my good guess is it's over $5 million a mile. We still have close to 100 miles of combined sewers. Total of that, you're talking about $500 to $600 million to get there.
As a follow-up, just as a clarification, when you're talking about contaminants from the street, from storms, I understand that to mean, the roadways get washed into the stormwater drains, and there's oil and whatever that's included in that. I'm asking whether or not storage itself, the stuff they flush down the toilet, does that end up being untreated as well?
All right, so that is true, but let me give you an idea of what that concentration is. So we treat on a daily basis, 10, 11 million gallons over a 24-hour period. So if you have a storm that is generating over 200 million gallons of water, because the plant itself can treat up to 110 million gallons, the disinfection facility can treat up to 100 million, that's 200, plus storage and plus all. So we have, plus what's been discharged, so say 400 million gallons. So that same 11 million gallons of daily flow, dry daily flow, that includes actually a fair percentage of underground water. We do have infiltration on a regular basis. So you're talking about a very low concentration of this sewage.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, moving over to personnel. Item
Move
A.
to accept the resignation of Stephen,
Stefan
I was going to say that too, Stefan Lecomte,
Lecomte.
mechanic first class, effective August 17th, 2018.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Move to unseal the non-public minutes for personnel from the Board of Public Works meeting of July 26, 2018.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I believe we're going into non-public session now.
Yes.
Commissioner Moyer.
I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A3, Roman numeral 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Okay. Diane, would you like to take the roll for that?
Sure.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Teese.
Yes.
Okay, we're officially in non-public.